Welcome back to our Amud Yomi Shiur. We are Amud Yomi Maseches Bava Metzia Perek Ezu Neshech Ein Dalad Amud Beis in the Mishnah. This Shiur today, is about one topic. The topic is called Seah Beseah. What does it mean Seah Beseah? Basically, before we start, I'm going to describe again what Seah Beseah means. Seah Beseah means if a person lends his friend, let's say 1 kilo, speaking kilos, come Israeli, 1 kilo of flour. Okay, people Torah anytime, one kilo of flour for I don't know, 15 shekels, right? And I say, give me back 1 kilo of flour. Well, that's very normal. Apparently, it's a halachic issue potentially. Why? Because it's very likely that the flour price is going to go up. There is a thing called inflation from time immemorial, and therefore if the person will give back to me also a bag of flour worth 20 shekels, originally was 15, then that is similar to Ribbis, only derabanan, because it's not Ribbis Ktsutsa, but lemaisa, it is a Ribbis derabanan, and therefore, generally speaking, it's an issue. Now, don't worry, you are allowed to borrow eggs from your neighbor, or milk and honey in the land of milk and honey, but there are exceptions. There are all kinds of details here that we're going to elaborate on, but this is the general rule, and we're going today, the entire shiur today, from beginning to the end, is just about that topic, right? It's just about sale besale. Sale is, is weight, is one of the shiurim. One sale should not be borrowed in order to give back another sale. There are many solutions, but that's a general rule. Comes the Mishnah and already gives us an exception to the rule. Says the Mishnah, Malve odom es arisov chitin bechitin lezera avaloi lechoil, which means a person, and soon you're going to see why, a landlord, a person who is actually an owner of a piece of land that's meant not an apartment, it's a field. A field owner, he employs arisim, which you call sharecroppers, right? Now, what does it mean? The sharecropper is going to do all the work, is going to sweat in the field, is going to plow, till the earth, is going to work till the earth what? And then what? And then he's going to get percentage, right? All very nice. Now, the owner, the balabais, the field owner, is allowed to give the oris, let's say, how many grains does he need? He gives him, I don't know, half a ton of grains, of kernels to sow, to plant in the land, okay? And he's going to lend it to him, and that's okay. When the year will be over, and he may be more expensive, we don't know. It may possibly be more expensive. Basically, when it comes to an employer, an employee in a field, is allowed to give him 1 kilo, 1 ton, 1 whatever of chitim in order to get chitim lezera, as long as the purpose is for work purposes, in order that the oris will actually sow them in the ground. Only that's allowed. Why is a very good question. We're going to see it in the Gemara. Avalo lechoil. If the balabais is not allowed to lend the oris, the kernels, so he should eat them, should make bread out of them, that's not allowed. But if the only reason is the balabais giving the worker, the free worker, the oris, the sharecropper, for work purposes, that he should plow, she should put them in the field, plant them in the field, that's okay. Of course, the question is why. That will be discussed in the Gemara. Continues the Mishnah. Shoyer Rabban Gamliel, malve saris of chitin bechitin. And Rabban Gamliel was more machmir. Rabban Gamliel would lend his arisim chitin bechitin. In other words, he would be malve them 1 saw, let's say, of wheat, so they should give him back a saw of wheat. However, he would be careful lezera in order to plant them in the field. However, he would be careful. Rabban Gamliel would be extra machmir on himself. What would he do? Beyoker vehuzlu, oy bezoil vehukru, noitel beshar keshar hazol, which means it's very, very simple. Yoker vehuzlu zol vehukru means as follows. Let's say he lent them the 1 kilo of grains, okay, 1 kilo of grains for, I don't know, for 20 shekels. It was expensive because later it became 10 shekels. What would he take? He would take back a bag. The bag is worthless. That's no problem, right? He would lend them for 20, making a condition in advance that if the price of that very same amount of 1 kilo will go down, a few months later, he'll take it happily even though it's worth less. It's the same amount with a stamp, a price stamp saying less because of the deflation. He'll take less. Oy bezoil behukru. What would be if it was the other way around? Rabban Gamliel would be careful. Let's say that 20 shekel bag now became 25. What would he do then? He would not take back the bag of 25 worth 25 shekels. It's the same amount, but higher price. He wouldn't take the higher price. He wouldn't take the bag. What would he say? Give me instead 20 shekels. Get it? Understand? You would always make sure Neutelman Kisharazol. Whether it went down or went up, Rabban Gamliel would always make sure to do what? To always give back to himself, always take back the lower of either at the time of lending or the time of returning, whatever was worth less, that's what he would take. Very good. So this way he avoided so beso, right? And he made that condition probably in advance. Otherwise, it's a problem. We'll see. But the Maisa, that was Rabban Gamliel. V'lo mipnei shalocha ken. Halacha is not like Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel wanted to be more machmir. Rabban Gamliel knew he's an Adam Gadol, probably. Obviously, he was an Adam Gadol. He was aware of it. Probably was more machmir on himself, and he did not do the saw besaw, even though in the context of worker and oris, an employer and oris, it's allowed, but he was still more machmir. Oh, the question, of course, is why is that allowed? If we're choishesh, if I lend you, let's say, a bag of rice now, give it back to me in 6 months, it's very likely to be more expensive, and you give me the same bag of rice, the same, not the very same one, of course, yeah, the same quality, same thing, same amount of bag of rice. Now it's worth 10 shekels and later 15. It's a problem. So why is that okay if we're talking about plowing the field and working the field? What's the difference? So instead of asking that, the Gemara is going to present a contradiction, a stira between the Mishnah and the Brisa, and through that we'll understand everything. Be'ezras Hashem. Okay, says the Gemara. The Gemara quotes a Brisa. The Gemara brings down a Brisa. What does the Brisa say? Tonu Rabbanon. Mal ve'odom es arisa v'chitim b'chitim lezera. A person, a landowner, may be malve, may lend his arisim, his sharecroppers, chitim b'chitim, which means he may tell them, as long as you're using it for work purposes, you're going to sow my field with those chitim, no problem. Even though the chitim are worth now 100 shekel, they may very likely be worth 120, 130 in a few months' time. It's not a problem. As long as it's the same amount, it's fine. Of course, the question is why, but now the Brisa is adding a stipulation on that. Says the Brisa, when is that true? Sheloi yorad. Oh, that's important. As long as the oris did not start working before, and that's a key point over here. Before the oris started working in the field, then you can actually lend him the chitim in order to get chitim back. Aval yorad also, once he started to work, let's say, for example, we're going to see there are different definitions to starting to work. Let's say he started plowing the field on Sunday, and on Monday comes the balabais and says, "You're plowing the field. Where are the chitim? I will graciously lend you the chitim." Then it's already osir. Then we already do have a problem of ribbis, of so beso. And the question is, our Mishnah did not make that stipulation. Our Mishnah said you can always do that. Even if the person started working on Sunday and only on Monday you, the balabais, you lend him the chitim, that's fine, it's okay. The question is, before we even go to why the whole thing, there's already a stira between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Let's see how the Gemara deals with the stira. Frag the Gemara, what's the difference between our Mishnah, the loika maflig ben yod ben lo yorad? Our Mishnah does not differentiate between whether it started to work or didn't start to work. Even after he started working, it's still okay to lend him the chitim and get back chitim. Tana Boro, the Bryce, what's Tana Boro? The exterior Tana Boro is exterior. Why is the Bryce the exterior Tana, the Bryce, the Kamafli ben Yod ben Lo Yorad? Why did the Bryce tell me that there's a difference whether he started to work or not? Okay, before we get to the answer, yeah, you guys may get antsy to understand what's going on here. Let me pause, let me stop, and explain the follows. Before the Gemara gives you the answer, let me give you some background. Imagine yourself, we're not talking about a field. Imagine yourself, we're talking here about somebody working for moderncompany2023.com, very fancy, snazzy, nice startup company, whatever. And they tell you, yeah, people get X amount per month. Yeah, let's say if they work there in Israel, it goes per month. They get X amount of money. I don't know, 15,000 per month. Okay, and there's an issue about lunch. Who's going to eat lunch? Is lunch on the boss or lunch on you? Right? Okay. So now let's say that they say like this. Listen, they tell you before you start working. They sit down with you, the head guy or the I don't know HR guy, whoever sits with a new employee. I don't know, not so much in this world. And they say, listen, your salary and so, but we want to tell you that we're going to give you lunch because we're going to give you lunch instead of you, which is really what should have been, but we're so nice to you, we give you lunch. So you're going to get less of a salary, not going to get 15,000 clean, as we say. You'll get, I don't know, 14 and a half, whatever, yeah, 14,200, but we give you lunch every day, let's say. Well, forget about the numbers, yeah? Oh, so that is not called lending. That's not called, then didn't lend him the money. No, the work conditions are different. As long as he's sit by the table deciding about the work conditions before he started to actually work, before he got his badge, before he got his card, before he got whatever, yeah, and they can still change everything. There was no Kenyan. That's a work condition. We're giving you lunch, and instead of lunch, you in return, you don't have to. It's not what we're lending you money. Oh, what would be the other way? Case number two: a guy starts working in the company, and he knows he's supposed to get what 15,000. Okay, and he also knows that he's supposed to bring lunch from home, right? All of a sudden comes the boss and tells him, no, you know what? I will lend you money for lunch. Yeah, I will lend you vouchers. We have vouchers for lunch in the canteen. You can use it in our big, amazing company. Yeah, I'll lend you those, and you'll have to give back to me afterwards from your salary. That's already different because it's not part of his working conditions. In other words, when you say something before the person started to work, then you said it's not called lending. It's called part of your working conditions. You sit by the table and you decide the salary is X, but right away you say the salary is X minus Y because Y is something that I'm providing you, like lunch, like coffee, like something. But She'enken, after you started working and you're expecting 15,000 clean, right? And then they tell you, you know what? Actually, we will lend you money for lunch, which really we're not supposed to. It's supposed to be lunches on you, but we're lending you the money. Then you'd like any other foreign person, and then you actually, it's clearly not working in the company. Then he'll give them back what? He'll give them back money from lunch. That's called lending, and that is osur. That is so beso. So in general, 1 second, before I ask your questions, 1 second, let's go back to our, before we read the Gemara, I'm saying it in my own words now. In the case of the Mishnah, before we go into the differences between the Mishnah and the Brisa, let's now explain the Mishnah. When a person did not yet start working, and we're going to have an issue now, what's called starting to work. Before the person started to work, then we say, listen, when the Balabais gives him the grains, yeah, Balabai says, I'm giving you the grains, and that is part of your work conditions. You are supposed to bring the grains yourself. You didn't bring it to yourself? Oh, okay. Then I'm lending it to you, but that's not called lending. Why? Because lechatchila, before you even started to step into the field, before you did anything, then I am telling you the conditions are, it's not even called lending. Because who says that the worker is supposed to bring it, Bichlal? Yeah? The work conditions are salary of 15,000, or in this case, you get 40% of the crops. Yeah, you get 40% of the produce, and part of the condition is I'm giving you the grains, and therefore it won't be 40%. It'll be 35%. It's all part of the agreement. It's not called lending. Nobody's lending you anything. Will lechatchila know that stuff will be deducted from your salary? You lechatchila have a lower salary because big great balabais gives you the grains. That's not called lending, and therefore it's not an ish of saw besaw. But she'en ken, if he started to work and he cannot be kicked out anymore, as we're going to see in the Gemara, and there's already an agreement, and in that agreement he thinks that he's going to give the grains. The worker believes lunch is on me, or the grains I'm supposed to provide the grains from my house in order to plant them, yeah. And afterwards comes the balabais 1 day later and says, you know what? I will lend them to you. That's called lending. Because really it's something that I was supposed to have on my expenses. Yeah, who's supposed to pay Akiva Tachtel's water bill? Akiva Tachtel. If I ask you, Khalila, for a loan, then what? Then you lend me and I give you back. Once he started to work, assuming, having in mind, I'm supposed to pay for the grains, and then Balabas comes to him with a big smile and says, I'll lend you the grains. That's called lending. That's called lending. If he's lending that in order to, even if it's deducted from the salary, kol sheken, if it's giving him mamish grains, that's called lending, and that's also because that's called lending one saw in order to get a saw, which is likely to be more expensive, and it's Ribbis derabanan. That is in a nutshell what the Gemara is all about. I prefer to read it now inside the Gemara and then hear your questions if you don't mind. Yeah, because I believe once you see it in the Gemara with all the details, then I'll be more than happy to listen to questions. People can also email me questions if they're interested. Yeah, those who see me online. Weiter. Says the Gemara. Omar Rove. Rove is now coming to explain the difference between the Mishnah and the Brisa. The Mishnah said that it's always allowed to lend. The Brisa said it's you're only allowed to lend as long as it didn't start working. What's the difference? Omar Rove says Rove. Rabbi Idi Asberoni Ali. Rabbi Idi explained it to me. Rove, by the way, I don't know why. Rove is an Amoira that always uses the same coin of the same term. He always says that somebody, another Amoira, Asbera. What's lahasbir? He explained to me. Says Rove, Rabbi Idi explained to me. Be'ater the Tanadidan, in the place of our Mishnah, that did not differentiate between starting to work or not. Arisa Yohiv Bizra. The normal thing to do, as I described to you guys, the Oris is supposed to bring the one, to be the one who brings what? The Bizra, the seeds. He's the one supposed to bring the seeds from him. He's the one who's supposed to provide the seeds. Now, Ben Yorad, Ben Lo Yorad, whether he started to work physically and plow the field or did not yet start to plow the field, Kamed de Lo Yohiv Bizra, as long as he did not come with a bag of what? Grains, and provided the tools, the grains, the material, matzi mesalikle. The balabais can still, excuse my bad language, can still kick him out. He can still cancel the deal. The worker didn't start working. He may have plowed 1 day, 2 days, sweating away. As long as you did not bring your grains, Mr. Oris, from your house, it's not called that the opening shot actually was shot. Nothing really happened. V'chika nochis. Now comes the balabais and says, what? Listen, mister, before you brought the grains from your own house, comes the balabais out of his mansion with a big nice bag of grains and gives them to the Oris. But when the Oris started to work, which means when he started to work, let's have a timeline. On Sunday, they made an agreement, but it was a verbal agreement, and he started to work. Monday, he's still working. It's not called that he started to work. Why? Because the Oris, did not bring the bag of rice. The bag of grains would be rice. Oh, yeah, the bag of grains was not brought. That's the starting point in that place. And therefore, comes the balabais on Monday before anybody brought grains and says, you know what? In our company, yeah, although you're supposed to bring the chitim, I will lend you the chitim. Why is that okay? Because when he really started to work, once the grains are in his hand, that's a starting point. When the grains were in his hand, they already had a verbal agreement that part of your working conditions, that's like sitting by the table of the HR, we are deciding now that the balabais, will give you the grains. It will be deducted from your monthly salary, or in this case, from the percentage, and that's absolutely okay. It's not called lending because the Oris didn't yet bring it, wasn't yet mischai to bring it from his own house. Nothing really started. Before any real start happened, the balabais already made a pre-early condition saying, I will give you the grains, which will be deducted from your salary. It's like saying, in our company, lunch is on what? Lunch is on the boss, but it's taking away from your monthly salary. That's not called lending. That's called changing the work conditions. Because lending means when I have a responsibility to pay something for my water bill, my gas bill, my food, and you lend me the money. But if lechatchila, the work conditions are that it's on the boss, suppose the boss pays, the company pays for your hotel, for your car, for your bill, that's not called lending. They pay for that and they deduct it afterwards. That's not called halva, and that's absolutely okay. In the case of the brisa, in the place of the brisa, be'atra, in the place of the brisa, what happens there? The normal thing is mari'ara yohiv bizra. It's normal for the balabais to give the what's his name, the wheat, the grains. Normally the balabais gives the wheat, okay, but you have to remember in this case who gave the wheat. Normally the norm, the social work norm in the place of the brisa is lunch is on the boss. Yeah, Lunch is on the cheshbon of the work, yeah? Or in this case, the grains are supposed to be brought on Balabais, okay? The guy comes on Sunday, right? Assuming what? Who's supposed to give him the grains? The Balabais. Comes the Balabais and tells him two things. My field is beautiful, so says Rashi. My field, ooh, I am Microsoft, I'm Google. Say thank you that you have me on your CV and your resume. In my field, no, 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 no. The grains are on you. Okay, but I don't have grains. Says the gracious Balabais, I will lend you the chitim. That is different. Why is it different to the first case? Explains the Gemara. Ilo yorad. Now, there in the case, no, before we continue, since the balabais is the one that's supposed to give him the wheat, the grains, then what marks the beginning of work? Not the oris bringing the chitim from his house. He's not supposed to bring them from his house because in every normal place, before he knew about that crazy agreement, every normal place, he assumes in here, everybody, the balabais brings them the grains. He came on Monday to the field and started plowing and plowing. As far as he is concerned, he started to work. You understand? The cutoff point here, the starting point is not when he brings the grains from home. He's not supposed to bring the grains from home in that town. The balabais is the one who does that. Came Monday, he started plowing, sweating. You can't kick him out anymore. Yeah? He already started to work. Therefore, the Brisa says as follows. Ilo yorad, as long as he didn't start working physically, technically sweating in the field, the matzi mesali clay, and the balabais is allowed to still make him go, can still fire him because he didn't yet started to work. He kanochis, he started to work, and yet the balabais, what did he do? He did that double agreement. He said, you're supposed to bring the what? The chitim, right? But I will lend them to you. But as long as he did not start working, you can do whatever you want. Why? Again, the same idea as before. When he started to work, he assumed what? He assumed, yeah, if then the balabais tells me that I'm supposed to give it, okay, but he will lend it to me, okay. As long as they didn't start working, that's not called a loan. It's the same concept again. Don't get confused, guys. It's the same concept again and again. Before Mr. Worker wears his badge and actually sits with the computer, or in our case, before he actually plows the field, the lemaisa, it's not called lending. It's called changing his work conditions before he even started. Yeah, like you get a phone call from you're supposed to start working on Tuesday, come to the office with the badge on your shirt and sit by the computer on Tuesday by the office. Sunday, you get a phone call, you're going to work for me. Monday, you get a phone call, the lunch is in you, but I'm lending you lunch. That is still okay. It's not called lending because the working conditions are still flexible before he started to work. That's not called lending. We decided now, okay, but here, I assume, I understand right from the start that in this weird place, I'm supposed to pay for the chitim, and Balbais will lend me the chitim. There was a precondition of the work. Masha'en ken, yorad. But once he started to work and having in mind what? That the Balbais, yorad, what does yorad mean? If he started to work, the loy matzi misali clay, and Balbais cannot change the conditions. But if he already started to work and the Balbais is not allowed to fire him, to kick him out, to dismiss him anymore, it's already called proper starting to work. Then it's also, what's also? Then you're not allowed to tell him, I will lend you the chitim. Why not? Because when he started to work 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, what did he think, the worker? The worker thought, I'm supposed to what? To get this from the balabais. Great. I'm expecting a full salary. I'm expecting full 40%. Yeah, let's go. I'm not expecting botzi, which is less. I'm expecting tfei. I'm expecting big dreams. I'm expecting full 40%. Yeah. Then came the balbais after he sweat for half a day. He thought, you know what? In our place, it's in my place. You're supposed to bring the chitim. Okay, says Rashi. Why would he agree to that? The Oris. He says he gave him a gift. Here's a nice gift from the company, a little, I don't know, smartphone or something, whatever that is, a nice little hat, whatever that is. And for that, I ask you to please agree that the grains will be on your cheshbon. Oh, you don't have grains? I lend you the grains. If you do those conditions, if you stipulate them after he started to work, that's called lending. Because when he came to work, he expected what? That there's 15,000 that he's supposed to get, right? To gain, right? And then let's say he would have told him at the beginning, you're supposed to bring what? The grains. Okay. So, okay, I'm supposed to bring it. Now the Labais lending it to me is what? He's lending me something that I'm supposed to provide. If I'm supposed to provide it, right? Because in his company, he said that he provides it. He gave me a gift in order to convince me that I will provide him with the grains. And now he's lending. Oh, it's my responsibility, my personal expenses, my lunch, my coffee, my grains, my whatever. And then he's lending it to me. It's like lending to any other person. You're not allowed to lend, so. Let's repeat. I can see it's a little confusing to you guys. I'll just repeat the concept, and then everything, Bez Hashem, will be clear. Again, let's repeat. There's an Isser. We're going on, not to repeat, we're going to summarize, to be exact. There is a halachic concept called so beso. Yeah? If you come to me, I don't talk about small amounts because small amounts is different. If you're the owner of Angel's Bakery and I'm the owner of Berman's Bakery, big bakeries, and you happen to miss a small amount of flour, you're missing, I don't know exactly how it works, but those people, yeah, you're only missing 2 tons of flour. Yeah. So Angel bars from Berman 2 tons of flour, right? Worth, I don't know, millions of shekels. Then what? You're not allowed to do that unless you have, you can't lend me 2 tons of flour in order to get back 2 tons of flour because it may be more expensive. That's a general rule. Why is it okay to do that in a field? Why is that okay? Because in a field, if Balabais gives the oris before he started to work, the only difference between the Bryce and the Mishnah is what's called starting to work, to plow or to provide the seeds. But before you started to work, comes Mr. Big Boss and tells you, I'm lending you. It's not called lending. Because when he started to work, 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, he already knew the worker that that's the agreement. The agreement is, I am being provided graciously from Balabais. He provides me with the seeds instead of me providing. That is so nice of him. And instead of that, instead of getting 40%, I'll get 38%. It's not called lending. It's called different working conditions. You go to the same workplace, people have different conditions. Yeah, Reuven goes to work and he gets 15,000 clean, and he pays for his own supper. He brings his own sandwiches, and Shimon gets 14 and a half because he has nice fancy lunch every day in the canteen. It's just different conditions. Masha'enken, after you started to work, whenever that is, either when you started to plow or when you got the grains, whenever you started to work, assuming, oh, I'm supposed to be the one who brings the grains. Lunch is on me. It's my expense. He has an expense to Oris. It's his own, listen to the word, independent expense. Yeah, you have expense at home to pay for your children's tuition and expense at work to bring my own grains. And that's when I started work, I assumed that I'm supposed to pay for everything. 2-3 days later comes Big Balbais with a big grin on his face and says, oh, I see you don't have grains. I'll lend you the grains and then I'll get them back. That's called lending. Because Lamais, you're like any other person. And that's the name of the game. That's it. Yeah. Questions and comments are welcome. More about so beso. Let's continue and jump into the next Amud. A person tells his friend, Alveini kur chitin. A person may tell his friend, Be malve, lend me a kur of chitin, one big amount, a big size, big amount of chitim, of wheat. The koitetz loy domim. What's koitetz loy domim? Here's a solution. Here's solution number 1 to so beso. You don't want to be the neighborhood's miser. So what are you going to do? You can lend the kur chitim, that's a big amount, but tell the borrower, give me back not chitim, give me back money. Let's say this kur chitim is worth 2,000 shekels, give me back 2,000 shekels. Then it's very good, because if you give me back a bag of chitim, that would be worth how much? 2,200, 2,500. Give me back 2,000 clean in cash. Huzlu. What happens if really after that the chitim become cheaper? Instead of 2,000, a few months later, you give it back and they're worth 1,500. No, it's a no chitim. You give him the chitim. Why? Because lamaisa, you lent chitim of how much? 1 core. You get back chitim the same amount for less money. To get less money is not a problem. Get less value. Although there's a question here. Hukru noisent mayem. But if they got more expensive, if that same core of chitim a few months later is not worth 2,000, it's 2,500. Then you don't get 2,500. Then you ask for 2,000 in cash and not for the chitim. Frag the Gemara v'aloi kotzatz. The Gemara says, Why do you say that a few months later, if the chitim are cheaper, you give him a bag of chitim? You said that he's supposed to expect cash. Kotetz means don't give him back chitim, give him back cash in a few months. And says Gemara, Enochanami, you're right. We misunderstood the brisa. This is what the brisa means. Im loy kotzat. Oh, if it was koitzet means what? Don't give me back wheat, no rice, no wheat, no eggs, no tomatoes. Give me back what? Give me back just money. The same. Let's evaluate it now. Now the bag of tomatoes I'm giving you is worth 20 shekels. Give me back 20 shekels cash. Don't get into trouble. Then you'll only get cash. Im loy kotzat. Oh, what would be if actually he did something naughty? Let's say he was not koitzet. In other words, he said, here's a bag of rice and give me back a bag of rice. Because there's probability it will be more expensive, it may be already a problem, maybe. What do you do then? Then depends, who's lu, noitel chitov. If the bag of rice was 10 shekels and now it's 5 shekels, take back the same bag of rice for less money. No problem getting less money, that's not Ribbis. If the bag of rice, which was 10 shekels a few months later, is 15 shekels, then don't give him the bag of rice of 15. Give him what? 10 shekels instead. Now, when it comes to rice, it's not a problem. Yeah, you are allowed to lend your neighbor stuff because we're going to see very soon that when it comes to small stuff, it's okay. But big stuff is a problem. People can lend. Yeah, you don't own a huge company. Maybe you know, maybe you do, and I don't know. Yeah, but if you own a real big company, people lend. If you lend flour, you lend whatever material, building material. That sometimes the difference of 1% is millions. Yeah, and then it's a difference, and then you really have to know not to just lend without doing the right conditions. The condition should be, I'm giving you, I don't know, building material worth million, give me back billion or less. If it's worth less, then less. If it's going to be worth more, give me the cash and not the actual material. Says the Mishnah. I prefer to continue because I'll tell you what, if we manage today and tomorrow to finish an entire Amud, on Sunday, then we'll be finishing the parak on Sunday. Yeah, we have one more. We're in the last daf of Ezu Neshech. Next parak is easier. Yeah, let me calm you down. Next parak is easier. Says the Mishnah, again on the same topic. Lo yamar odem lechavero, a person is not allowed to tell his friend, alveni kur chitin, v'ani aten lecha legoyren, lend me a kur, lend me a big amount of wheat, and I'll give you back legoyren. Goyren means at the end of the year, at the end of the agricultural cycle of chitim. Let's say, when is that? Around now, Sivan Tammuz, then I'll give you back. Most probably will be worth more money, right? Don't do that, even though you're not asking for Ribbis, you're asking for the same amount, which is likely to, the price is likely to be inflated. Don't do that. Don't lend him that way. Aval, but, Omer lo, he could tell him, Alveini ad shiova bni, or ad shem tzamafteach, which means, here's one kula of so beso. This is what's called, according to Rashi, it's called what we saw before, yesh loy. Let's say a person says to his friend, listen, I have 2 tons of wheat in my machsan. I need to now make dough right now for my customers. And my stupid, excuse my language, son is now in America, is coming mamish in a day or 2, with a key, with a code, which I forgot, whatever. I temporarily need a quick loan of wheat, of barley, of whatever, but I do have it locked in my machsan, in my storage room, I have it. That's allowed. Why is that allowed? Because it's called yeshloi, which we've seen before. What's yeshloi? When I borrow from you a bag of wheat or a ton of wheat, whatever, and I have such bag of wheat in my house, conceptually, I could give it back to you right now. It's only a technicality that I don't have it because I don't have the key. But since I have it, I could have given it to you right now. There's a technical barrier here of the key. But technically, since I have it, I could have given it back to you right now. It's considered as if I already gave it back to you now. And now the raising price of between 1,000 becoming 1,500, it's kilo happening in the reshus of who? Of the lender. And that's why it's okay. Same concept we've seen before a few times. That's why it's okay. The Ritzvah has another pshat here, but I don't want to confuse you here. We're sticking to Rashi. The Hillel Oyser, Hillel Azoken, Hillel says, no, even if you have the stuff in your house, what you're borrowing, you have the same amount in your house, it doesn't help. Hillel is more machmir. Another chumrah of Hillel, Loital ve'isha kikar lechaverto ad shetaseh adomim. A woman is not allowed to lend a what? A loaf of bread to her friend. Mamish a loaf of bread unless she tells her, not that I'm a miser. Let's say the what? Let's say the loaf of bread is worth 5 shekels. She should tell her, don't give me back bread, give me back 5 shekels. Why? Because taseh adomim, convert it into money. Why? Shemayu kruchitin, brim to Ribbis, because maybe the wheat and consequently the bread will be more expensive. So my 5 shekel bread in a week's time she'll give it back to me will be worth 6 shekels. That's Ribbis. That's classical so beso. Why is it a chumrah of Hillel? You guys know why. What does the Ramos say? I told you. When it comes to small amounts, we're going to see later, Chachamim, and that's Alocha, are not makpid on that. Because people are not so particular in small things, right? And Tosa says it's also derech olam to lend small stuff from one neighbor to the other. You don't want to live in an environment where neighbors don't lend to each other milk and eggs and bread, even by goyim, they do that, right? And therefore, in order to maintain peace and in order to not be makpid on small things, when it comes to small stuff, as I say, don't sweat over the small stuff, right? And Mimele, on that they're not makpid. But Hillel says you are. But most people say that you don't. Says the Gemara. Yeah, Omar Rav Huna. We're going to get today, hopefully, to the Mishnah. Okay. Omar Rav Huna. Says Rav Huna. Yesh lo seo, loy veseo. As I told you, yesh loy. A person has a whole saw of chitim, but he doesn't want to use it right now. He needs another saw of chitim. If you have a saw of chitim at home, you may borrow saw, and it's not a problem of ribbis. Why? Because conceptually, if I wanted to, any given second, I could have given you back the saw, right? The one that I have at home. I choose not to because I need both same. But if I, the borrower, wanted to, I can give it to you right away, chick chak. Mimela, it's ke'ilu, I gave it back to you, and the price went up in your possession, the lender. Sell time, loy sell time. Rav Huna says you have to be particular about the amount. You borrow one saw, you have to make sure that connected that you have a saw at home. You borrow 2 saws, you have to make sure you have 2 saws at home. That's Rav Huna. Rabbi Yitzchak says a tremendous chiddush. Rabbi Yitzchak Oimer. Afilu yesh lo seo, lo ve'oleo kama kurin. Wow, that's an unbelievable concept. Says Rabbi Yitzchak like that. The whole thing is symbolic. I have one saw. One saw is what? Is a kilo and something. It's not so much. I have one saw of flour at home. I can borrow against it a few kurim, tons and tons. How come is that's true? Explains Tosfos and other Rishonim, not all in one go. Let's say I have one bag of flour at home. 2023, very practical halacha l'maaseh. I have one bag of flour at home, says Mrs. Pachachovsky, but she wants to bake 20 cakes. That's not enough. On Sunday, she can knock on her neighbor's door, borrow a bag of flour, even if he would be also to borrow small things, yeah? Borrow a bag of flour, and it's not a problem because she has one bag of flour at home that she's not going to give it to the neighbor, but conceptually, symbolically, she could have given to her. Okay, very good. Comes Monday, and she baked a cake with a borrowed one. She still has the original bag at home. Against this original bag, she can now borrow another one on Monday, another one Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, not on Shabbos, and on Sunday, Monday. Why? Every time you borrow, there's one bag against it. It's not a problem because it's not real shibud that this bag is meshubed to the lender. Like you have a piece of land, you're not allowed to sell because it's mortgage. That bag of rice is no mortgage to the lender. It's just a symbolic thing to show when I borrow, I have something at home against it. And that's enough, even though it's one bag of thing against one after the other, many. That's how it works. And that's halacha l'maaseh. Even more, all the more, says the Gemara, something even more extreme. Tani Reb Chia, l'siul Reb Yitzchak. Reb Chia brings the brisa. Reb Chia was the master of all brises. No, Reb Chia and Reb Oishia were the masters of brises. And he comes to help Reb Yitzchak by saying what? To endorse what Reb Yitzchak says. And he says, Tipas yain ein loy, tipas shemen ein loy. If a person doesn't have one drop of wine, he's not allowed to borrow wine. He doesn't have one drop of oil, he can't borrow oil unless he's koitzitz v'domim. Ha yesh loy. One drop you don't have is an issue. That is to say, if you have one drop of wine, loy ve'oleo kama tipin. If you have one small, you have a one little eggnog of wine, yeah, you can borrow a whole barrel against it. It's a symbolic thing because Chachamim were mekel. it's all derabanan. Rabbanan are the ones who invented, so to speak, or established that Isra. So they say as long as you're aware they have something small against it, that is okay. You can borrow a small glass of wine every day against that one small glass. The Hillel Oiser. Hillel says that's not allowed. Hillel is more machmir. He says even if you have stuff at home, it's still not allowed to lend. And also Hillel says that if you have what? Even small amounts, you're machmir. Even a bag of rice, even a dozen eggs, it's a problem. I'm sorry, I'm just shutting the window because of the noise. Omar Nachman, Omar Shmuel. One second. Halacha k'diver Hillel. Halacha is like Hillel. You have to be machmir on all accounts. The Leisi l'chazakavosei. The Gemara, however, concludes that halacha is not like Hillel, and therefore, we already have 3 kulos. We have 3 kulos how you may borrow a bag of rice. A, if you say to the person, to the lender, they both say to each other, or I would say the lender says, the lender has to say, give me back this, but give me back cash. Yeah, I don't want to get a bag of rice. It's a huge bag of rice. Yeah, the difference of 1% can be hundreds of shekels. Yeah, it's a ton of rice. It's not a joke between neighbors. It's big money here. Yeah, it's not worth 10,000 shekels. It could be worth 11,000. That's 1,000 shekels. Yeah. So if I say, don't give me back the bag of rice, give me back 10,000 cash, no problem. Cash for cash, 10 for 10, no problem. Another kula is if I have some rice at home. I have one small bag of rice at home. I can borrow against it one small bag and another small bag and another small bag. I want to tell you something really cool that the Rosh says. If I don't have a bag of rice at home, that the lender can give me one bag of rice. Yeah, give me one bag of rice as a matono, and borrow on top of that. Yeah, he should give me the first one. On top of that, he can borrow many others. A third kula, which we paskin against Hillel, and we're going to see this soon, is small stuff that's normally lent between neighbors. Chacham are not machmir, and that's what the Ramah paskins. Yeah, you may borrow a dozen eggs, a bag of milk, bread, shoko poko, whatever. All these things you may borrow because that is small amounts. Chacham are not machmir. That's the last time you can ask questions for today. So please ask your question now, and then we're going to continue. Very good, amazing, super. Hillel says a woman should not lend her neighbor something normal between women to borrow bread. Don't do that, even small amount. Hillel is machmir. Omar of Yudah Amar Shmuel. Zodi Hillel. That's what Hillel says. Very choshuv. Aval chachamim say no. Loivim stam uporim stam. Loivim stam uporim stam, according to Rashi, means, as I told you, when it comes to small amounts and or slash something that's normally borrowed, yeah, such bread, milk, eggs, that is something that's normal, and you're allowed to borrow that because chachamim are not machmir on small stuff. That's it. Or says Tosis, because people are not makpid. Normal people, you borrow a bag of milk, you get a bag of milk later. Most normal people are not going to say, hey, last week it was 5 shekels, now it's 6 shekels. Ooh, I gained or I lost. That's not normal thought, right? By most people. Don't sweat over the small stuff. Now, the Rambam says something interesting. We don't have much time, but we'll insert it. The Rambam is a chiddush, and other Rishonim are very angry with him. The Rambam says, listen to this. The Rambam says, you're only allowed to borrow, even if you already have the bag of rice at home, you're only allowed to borrow if you don't stipulate the time. But if you stipulate time, let's say the neighbor comes with stern face, she tells a friend, I'm sorry, but that milk, don't just return it whenever you want. No, I need that bag of milk. And let's say not tomorrow. She knows the prices are going up. It's not milk, it's those fancy yogurts. She gives her 8 Yoplait, one of the nicer ones. And she says, yeah, I'm giving you now. Give it back to me only in 2 months' time, not now. What's there? Says Rama, that's usher. Even with the other stipulation, it would still be usher, even if she has a tom v'chule v'chule. Why? The Ravid says, mapitom. Say the Maggid Mishnah says, you know why? Why would the person do that? Why is the lady asking to only be returned in 2 months' time? Because she knows prices go up. She actually wants to do business here and get a more expensive one. Yeah? Mimela, that's usher even on small stuff and even v'chule v'chule. That's what the Rambam holds. It's not Shulchan Aruch. And the Rambam says, loivim stam, uparim stam means without stipulating a date. Even if you have the stuff at home, there's another condition according to the Rambam. Take the bag of milk, take the yogurt, take whatever, and without stipulating a specific time, it's supposed to be back. Then it's okay. That's a Rambam. Oh, they may be different. I don't know. But if he stamp stipulates and said don't bring before, why don't you want it before? Obviously, want to try and make money. Now we really have to, accelerate a bit. Amar Vida Amar Shmuel. Bnei Chabura amakpidim zel ze. Yeah, Bnei Chabura. They may be friends in a way, and they many times lend and borrow one from the other, but they're very particular on one. Yeah, they're very particular regarding amounts. In other words, when one lends to his friend, 1 kilo, it should be 1 kilo. I'm getting it back, not 1 gram more. Yeah, not 1/2 an ounce more or less. Yeah, they're very makpid on the amounts. There are a lot of issues in having such relationship of akpodo. Yeah, bnei chabur makpidim ze al ze. Oivin mishum mida u'mishum mishkal u'mishum minyan. There are two potential averis that they're over. First of all, on Shabbos, are you allowed to borrow stuff on Shabbos? Well, are you allowed to measure on Shabbos? No, you may come to write. Those guys, says Tosfos, because it's so particular, I lent you a meter of fabric, let's say, yeah, of fabric, and I want to get them 1 meter, they may come to measure the cloth, even on Shabbos, and that's usher, because they're so particular with each other, they're so finicky, they're so fussy. And other Rishonim say that the problem is Gzela. Why is it Gzela? Because, yeah, if I borrow from you, I don't know, a cucumber, give you back a cucumber, and it's more or less the same size, we're okay. But if we're makpid, that cucumber was 11 and 2 millimeters, and one is only 1 millimeter, then one of us was gozel. It's gzela. Because if I care about it, then it's gzela. Then it's ridiculous. And in Shabbos, are you allowed to borrow on Shabbos? Depends which lotion you use. If you say, it doesn't exist in English. In Hebrew, there are 2 words to the concept of how to translate the term to borrow. Lish'ol and lehalvot, which you know from the Gemara. She'ela means what? She'ela means the same object comes back to me like a deposit, to borrow an object. Lehalvos means money, or what? Something that is perishable, you can bring me a new one. Now, on Shabbos, when you want to borrow, you're supposed to tell your neighbor, do you have lehashil, not lehalvot? Because lehalvot is more like money. Lish'ol is something that is not money, so it's okay to use that term of Shabbos. On Shabbos, you're not supposed to talk about money or say things that sound like money. Now, those Bnei Chabura, they may come to do loivim uparim b'yom tov. They, because it's so particular, they would, yes, say the word loivim. Why would they say the word loivim? Because alva means it's longer term. She'ela is usually short term. She'ela means take the drill and give it back. Alva means take the money and give it in 2 months' time, in a year's time. So those people are particular with each other. What's going to be with them? The person borrowing would say, no, I'm using the lotion of what? I'm particular. I'm always scared that the other guy is, something against me. And I would dafka use the lotion of halva, so I should have it for longer. Because if I say she'ela, he's going to ask it for me quicker, sooner. They're so crazy into these akpodis all the time, they may come to all these isurim. According to Hillel, yeah, which says that people which are makpid on each other. Oh, according to Hillel, explains Tosfos, why did Hillel say that neighbors shouldn't lend each other? Because Hillel is concerned that normal people are also somewhat particular about the amounts, and they care. Maybe the neighbor cares about the bread that should be more or less expensive, and therefore Hillel said it's osur. According to Hillel, those people who are makpid are over and Ribbis, of course, because you lent, they care. Yeah, he lent him a bread worth 5 shekels and gets 6 shekels, and they do care about it. That's Mamash Hillel. Rabbi Yehuda B'Shem Shmuel says, "Talmidei Chachamim mutorim lilvos dem izeh beribis." Wow, a Talmid Chacham is allowed to lend and borrow in Ribbis one Talmid Chacham of the other. What? What's going on? My time, and why is that? Main dayadi the Ribbis asura. They know Ribbis is asur. Umatonehu deyavu adodi. When they give the other person the extra, it's just a gift and not real Ribbis. But now we're going to have a huge stipulation. We're going to now minimize what we just said, qualify what we said big time. We're going to give an example that shows that it's not every Ribbis. Shmuel told Lavu Bari, to the father of Bari, Alveni mea pilpelin, ve'mea ve'esrin pilpelin ve'orich. Lend me 100 peppers, and I'll give you back 120, and it's okay. What does that mean? Explain Toysus and other Rishonim. Talmidei Chachamim are not allowed to lend and borrow real money, with ribbis. No way. Elamai. When we talk about food, which is pilpelin, and we talk about small amount, pilpelim are small. We talk about the small peppers. 100 versus 120 is not that much. If it's small amount of food, which, listen to the definition, people would anyhow give each other happily as a gift. When I go to your house, you give me a cup of coffee, you're not going to charge me, and I'm going to start counting granules of coffee, I hope. Yeah. In other words, it's something normally given between people. Yeah, lend me some chocolates, something, I'll give you back chocolates, and a cup of coffee. It's something normally done anyways. Elamai. By other people are not Talmidei Chachamim. We're concerned maybe the person is not aware of the Isser Ribbis so much, he would say, hey, maybe that's Ribbis and it's allowed. Maybe he's going to have in mind a bit of Ribbis in his mind subconsciously. A Talmid Chacham is trusted when he gives a small gift, when he gives back the loan with a small extra, we know that he clearly discerns and distinguishes and knows the 100 is the return, and the X says, Chalila not Ribbis, I'm aware the Ribbis is terrible, and I'm only giving it l'shem atono. That's why it's okay for Talmidei Chachamim. But not to give regular Ribbis in the bank. Ve'orich, and it's okay. You're allowed to lend your children money and ask them to give you Ribbis. Why is that? To have them taste the taste of Ribbis. What does that mean? If those children, your teenager, let's say they get from you pocket money, and that's the example I'm using on purpose. They're samuchal shulchanoi. They get sustained by daddy. Who else? Yeah. And what? You give them 100, right? And you tell them, Shloimish Prinzi, Bailey, you give me back 120. Ooh, they're going to fill it in their pocket, and when they grow up and start working, they will know the Ribbis is very dangerous. Why is that allowed? Because it's all the same money. All the money really belongs to daddy, belongs to tati. All the money anyways in the house. So it's not real Ribbis, it's just a game, and it's good to play the game. Wait, don't go now. It's good to play the game because why? Because really to show them how terrible Ribbis is. The lav mil sahi says, no, don't do that at home. It's not true. Mishum dosi la misrach, because they may say, no, that's actually great. Look how rich Tati is becoming. Look, Tati now had 100, now he has 12. It's so good. They're on the losing side now, but they're not losing the bread and water. And they will see how you become rich. They may get the opposite message. Therefore, don't try it at home. Don't do that. And by the way, the Ritva says something interesting. Again, the Ritva, he says, if somebody owes you, let's say, 3,000 shekels. Yeah, a guy owes me 3,000 shekels from years ago. Yeah, and I lend him 15,000, and I tell him, give me back 15,000 plus 3,000. Is that allowed? Yes. Why? Because those 3,000 are anyhow owed to me from a different chov. Get what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's, even though it looks like Ribbis, it's not Ribbis, because I'm owed that anyways, and that's okay. That's like the father lending in Ribbis, things that are anyhow owned by him. The whole money is. Thank you very much. So tomorrow is the last Sunday, last but not least Shiur of Ezu Neshech, Vezos Hashem. Everyone should be here. Thank you to everybody on Torah Anytime, YouTube, Atzloch Rabba B'chol Inyonim. You two have a great Shabbos. Thank you.